Hi YouTube, if you've been to this channel before, you've probably realised that I love creature feature movies. I'm going to be sculpting a weird little creature in this one called Little OTIK. So what you're seeing here is the cover of the film. It's made by a Czech surrealist movie producer called Jan Švankmajer. It's a really interesting film. I really love it. It's really funny, I think. It's basically about a couple who can't conceive, and the husband goes in the garden and he's digging up some roots, and he digs up roots that are sort of shaped a bit like this little person, and he takes it indoors, and the wife sort of falls in love with it as if it's her own child, and they're feeding it. But then things get a bit out of hand, and like it eats their cat, and then it eats the postman, and it sort of goes from there, really. You need to see it, basically. I'll show you a few of these stills of the original Little OTIK. Quite a few of these are from the actual movie, so you'll be able to get an idea of what it's like roughly. Like I say, it's pretty unusual. There's a lot of stop motion animation in it, which I love as well. Lots of cool little touches. So look at this with his tongue out. That's quite cool when she's feeding him. And also this one where he's eating some hair with all these teeth. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then I'm going to get on and show you how I'm going to go about sculpting this. The image that you're seeing now is the main image that I'm going to be using to base my model on. Right, I just started with 2mm aluminium wire, twisted around itself just to give me this rough overall shape. Then I crumple up lots of tin foil around the armature, and I press as hard as I can to thicken up the overall shape of the figure. Right, I'm going to be doing all the main parts of this sculpt using Milliput. If you haven't come across it before, it's a two-part putty, and you mix equal parts of these two sticks together, and it starts to set rock hard in about 4 hours. I'm really lucky because this channel is sponsored by Milliput, so they occasionally send me some for free. But even if they didn't, I would still use it because I love sculpting with it. Okay, so my first step was to put Milliput around just to bring out the shape of the main head and body. The Milliput is still soft at this stage because I've just literally put it on, but I thought I would show you it before I started to kind of work into this to bring lots of kind of wood texture and things into it. Right, next I pressed into the Milliput using various tools just to give me these wood texture effects. I think this is starting to work really well, but obviously the painting stages will pick up a lot of this detail a lot more. Hopefully this gives you a bit of a rough idea about how I'm doing this. Lots of kind of effects of knots, lots of streaks and lines and kind of fissures and things. Many of these were copied from that photograph that I showed you before, from the original one. I tried to get it sort of as closely matched as possible. I don't think it's going to matter if it's subtly different here and there, but I want to get the overall effect of him as correct as I can. Okay, so this is continuing with the same sort of technique. I've just done the same thing to an arm and a leg. You can see here a lot more kind of wood texture effects. I was really pleased with the way this is looking at the moment. Like, it's looking like wood already, and you sort of can guarantee that if it looks like wood already, then when you paint it, it's going to look even more like wood. You can see I've added certain things like where his belly button is going to go, and his mouth and his eye I've done as well. This arm, there's lots more to add to it, but this starts to look a lot more like him just by getting that mouth on. I think that helps a great deal. Okay, same again for the other arm and the other leg. There are extra details. I think, although this looks like a little willy, I think that's supposed to be his belly button there, remains of his umbilical cord. And lots more wood texture. I spent a bit of time trying to match quite a lot of the ones from the original again. I've still got other bits to add, like little kind of knots and things that stick out. Most of these things have been made just by pressing into the Milliput so far, but you can then add little lumps and bumps onto the top surface as well for extra texture. Okay, so I did toy with the idea of making all of his rooty bits out of Milliput, but I think that would take me hours and hours, and it would be pretty fiddly. So then I had this idea where I basically remembered that my heather plant outside has got these kind of quite interesting shaped branches and things. When I've trimmed it in the past, I remember thinking how kind of strong they are, so I thought that would be quite good. So this is all from a heather plant, and quite a lot of it looks like tangled kind of roots. I'm just going to pick the best bits from these and I'm going to try and match them as close as I can to what was in that photograph that I showed you of little OTIK in the first place. And this is what it ended up looking like. So these roots that you're seeing here, they're still covered in PVA glue, because what I thought was if I give them a coating of PVA glue, when the glue sets, it will have this sort of rubbery hard coating to each tiny root, and that will strengthen them all up. I'll be painting them anyway. Incidentally, when I put all these roots on, I had to make a few holes. So what I used this thing called a pin vise, which is basically like a little kind of hand drill type thing, and you just make holes in the ends of the arms and the legs, and then you feed the branches into the holes, and obviously put some PVA, I use super PVA glue into those holes, and then put the twigs in, and then they'll basically just be really solid then in those spaces. So this is how he's looking. I'm really pleased with him at this point. I think he's looking really amazing. So the main tools that I've been using so far have just been what you can see in the background here. I've got this main modelling tool. I've used that for pretty much everything. That's the pin vise in the middle, is the drill thing I was telling you about for making holes, and then just wire cutters, which are really useful for trimming twigs, cutting obviously the wires in the first place. Yeah, really useful tools, all of those. Okay, and this is how he's turned out after I painted him. My plan originally was to paint this in a sort of a mid-brown colour all over, and then I was going to do a dark wash so it went down into all the cracks, and then I was going to dry brush over the top to bring out a lot of the textures. But in the end what I did was just a reddish brown, really watered down wash over the whole thing. And straight away it's given a really amazing effect and looked surprisingly like the one from the movie. So I decided actually this was enough. I was a bit wary of going in and dry brushing over the top of this as well, in case it sort of ruined the effect, because I quite like this sort of the streakiness. It makes it look a little bit like it's been lacquered even though it hasn't been. I still might add a layer of lacquer over the top of it as well, just as an extra, because he does lacquer him in the movie, and that looks quite cool. I also made this little dummy and a little rattle. The rattle isn't like an exact replica of the one in the movie, it's just to give the overall impression. So it's white and blue like the one in the movie, but I didn't add any detail into it. It's just enough, yeah. I like having a couple of little props with it. One thing I might do in the future as well is make like a little hood for him and maybe a little white bib as well. But for now he's going to look great just like this in the studio with all my other creatures. It's just a nice little addition, and I love this movie, so I thoroughly recommend you all go out and watch it, and I think you'll like it. It is very funny. Very funny and rather unusual. I don't think you'll find another movie that is quite as unusual as this one. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you want to see anything that I make in the future, and I'll catch you in the next video.